Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth Defense Station Olympus, staring at the massive alien ships that had appeared without warning. The vessels were huge, each one bigger than any city on Earth. They hung in space like dark metal mountains, blocking out the stars. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Fisher from her position at the communications console. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke. Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge take a step back. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "I am High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. "Your species has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. All military forces must be disbanded. All weapons must be destroyed. Your leaders will report to our ships for processing." Jake felt his blood run cold. "And if we refuse?" The alien's expression didn't change. "No species has ever refused. We have conquered 400 worlds. Resistance brings only death. Submit and your people will serve the Empire. Refuse, and your planet will be cleansed of life." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter sat in the emergency meeting room in Washington. World leaders had gathered through video links from every major nation. President Carlos Martinez looked tired. Chancellor Elena Volkov seemed angry, and Premier Wei Chen kept checking his notes. "They disabled 3 of our orbital platforms in seconds," Admiral Carter reported. "No weapons, no warning. They just pointed at them and they stopped working. Our best technology is like stone tools compared to theirs." Dr. Alan Brooks, Earth's top scientist who studied alien life, cleared his throat. "I've been analyzing their message. These Zephyrians have been conquering worlds for thousands of years, but every species they've faced has given up quickly. They don't understand what humans are like." "What do you mean?" asked President Martinez. "Every other species they conquered was ruled by a single government or small group of leaders. When those leaders surrendered, the whole planet gave up. But humans are different. We have hundreds of nations, millions of leaders, billions of people who think for themselves. Even if every government on Earth surrendered, there would still be humans who would fight." Chancellor Volkov leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we fight them with what? You said yourself our weapons are useless." Dr. Brooks shook his head. "Not useless, different. They expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. But we're not like those species." Admiral Carter stood up. "I've been thinking about this since their ships appeared. These aliens have never lost a war. They expect everyone to give up when they see how powerful they are. But humans don't give up. It's not in our nature." "You're talking about suicide," said Premier Wei Chen. "They could destroy our planet." "Maybe," Admiral Carter admitted. "But if we surrender, humanity ends anyway. We become slaves forever. At least if we fight, we die as free people." The room fell silent. Finally, President Martinez spoke. "All in favor of resistance?" One by one, every leader raised their hand. High Commander Veltar stood in his command chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth. He had been fighting wars for over 2 centuries, and this was the easiest part. Most species surrendered before the deadline. The few that didn't usually gave up after the first demonstration of Zephyrian power. "Commander," said his aide, "we're receiving a response from the humans." "Display it," a human appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Carter wearing her military uniform. She looked directly into the camera and spoke clearly. "High Commander Veltar, humanity has considered your offer. We decline. Earth will not surrender. Our people will not become slaves. If you want our world, you'll have to take it by force. We'll be waiting." The transmission ended. Veltar stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever refused. His aide looked confused. "Sir, should we prepare for the standard pacification protocol?" "Yes," Veltar said slowly, "but increase security measures. These humans may be more troublesome than usual." Back on Earth Defense Station Olympus, Captain Morrison was preparing his crew for the impossible. They had less than 3 days to get ready for a war they couldn't win. "Sir," said Lieutenant Fisher, "I'm getting reports from all over the system. Every ship, every station, every base is preparing for battle. No one is running away." Jake smiled grimly. "That's humans for you. Too stubborn to know when we're beaten." Engineer Kate Williams was working frantically to upgrade their weapons. "Captain, I've been studying the energy readings from their ships. Our missiles might not penetrate their shields, but if we hit them in the right spot, we might be able to overload their power systems. It's a long shot, Jake said. Everything we're doing is a long shot, sir. Dr. Brooks arrived on the station with a team of scientists. She had been studying every piece of information they could gather about the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Morrison, she said, I need to tell you something important. These aliens think like machines. Everything they do follows patterns. They've conquered so many worlds the same way that they can't imagine any other way of fighting. What does that mean for us? It means that if we can surprise them, if we can do things they don't expect, we might have a chance. Not to win, but to hurt them, to make them think twice about what they're doing. The countdown continued. All across Earth, people prepared for war. Soldiers checked their weapons, pilots tested their ships, and ordinary citizens stocked shelters and organized resistance groups. In New York City, Mayor Tony Richards met with local police and military commanders. If those aliens land here, we're going to show them what New Yorkers are made of. Similar meetings were happening in every major city on Earth. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Cairo, Sydney. Everywhere, humans were preparing to fight an enemy they couldn't defeat. As the 72 hours ended, Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the alien ships begin to move. All around Earth, human forces took their positions. This is it, Jake said to his crew. Whatever happens, we make them remember that humans don't kneel to anyone. The first shots of the war were about to be fired. Neither side knew that this conflict would change the galaxy forever. High Commander Veltar watched from his flagship as the first wave of attack ships moved toward Earth. He had done this same operation hundreds of times before. Usually, the enemy would fire a few desperate shots, realize how outmatched they were, and surrender within hours. Begin standard pacification protocol, he ordered. Disable their orbital defenses first, then move to ground targets. Keep casualties minimal. We need workers, not corpses. The Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their shields glowing blue as they approached Earth's defense stations. Veltar expected the human weapons to bounce harmlessly off their armor. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien ships approach his station. His hands were steady as he gave the order that would start the war. All ships, this is Olympus Control. Fire everything you have. The space around Earth lit up with missile trails and energy beams. The human weapons struck the alien shields and seemed to do nothing, but Captain Morrison had been listening to Engineer Kate Williams. Target the shield generators, he ordered. Concentrate all fire on the small towers on their hulls. The human ships focused their attack on tiny targets that the aliens had never bothered to heavily protect. Suddenly, one of the Zephyrian ships lost its shields. Now, Morrison shouted. Hit them with everything! Human missiles slammed into the unprotected alien ship. The vessel shuddered and began to list to one side. Veltar stared in shock as his ship took actual damage. How is this possible? He demanded. Sir, they're targeting our shield generators. No species has ever thought to do that before. Commander Rick Stone led a squadron of human fighters in a desperate attack on the alien flagship. His ships were tiny compared to the massive Zephyrian vessel, but they were fast and unpredictable. Remember, Rick told his pilots, we're not trying to win. We're trying to hurt them. His fighters darted between the alien ships like angry wasps. When one of his pilots was hit and his ship began to explode, the pilot didn't eject. Instead, he aimed his burning fighter directly at an alien weapon turret. The kamikaze attack destroyed the turret and damaged the alien ship's hull. Veltar had never seen anything like it. Why didn't the pilot escape? He asked his aide. Unknown, sir. The human chose to die rather than save himself. This concept was completely foreign to Zephyrian thinking. In their culture, preserving one's own life was the highest priority. The idea of deliberately dying to harm an enemy made no sense to them. Lieutenant Amy Fisher was piloting her own fighter when alien ships surrounded her. Her weapons were almost empty and her ship was damaged. According to everything the aliens knew about warfare, she should surrender. Instead, Amy pointed her ship directly at the nearest alien vessel and pushed her engines to maximum power. She crashed through their shield generator and kept going, ramming into their main reactor. The explosion took out 3 alien ships and damaged 2 more. On the ground, things were going even worse for the Zephyrians. Colonel Sam Turner had spent months preparing Earth cities for invasion. When alien troops landed in New York, they expected the human civilians to run away in panic. Instead, They found organized resistance on every street corner. Mayor Tony Richards had turned the city into a fortress. Construction workers had built barriers across major roads. Police officers worked with soldiers to create overlapping fields of fire. Even ordinary citizens carried weapons and knew how to use them. The alien ground troops were confused. In every previous conquest, civilians had either fled or hidden. These humans were actually fighting back. "This is Squad Leader Morketh," one alien reported. "We have secured 3 city blocks, but humans keep attacking from buildings we thought were empty. They appear to be using the underground tunnel system to move troops." Veltar was getting similar reports from Tokyo, London, and every other major city where his forces had landed. The humans weren't just resisting. They were winning small battles. Dr. Alan Brooks was working frantically to understand the alien technology. Every piece of wreckage, every damaged alien device was brought to her laboratory. "Captain Morrison," she said over the communication system, "I think I understand why they're having trouble with us. Their entire military is designed to fight predictable enemies. Their computers calculate the most logical response to any situation, but humans don't always do the logical thing." "What do you mean?" "When Lieutenant Fisher crashed her ship into their reactor, their computers couldn't predict it because it was an illogical action. A logical pilot would have ejected and saved her life, but Amy chose to sacrifice herself to damage the enemy. Their systems can't plan for that kind of behavior." This discovery was being proven all across the solar system. Human tactics that seemed desperate or crazy to the aliens were actually working. Commander Valesta, a Zephyrian officer serving on one of the smaller ships, watched in amazement as human fighters used tactics that violated every principle of Zephyrian warfare. Instead of maintaining formation, they split up and attacked from different directions. Instead of retreating when outnumbered, they charged forward. Instead of preserving their forces, they sacrificed themselves to achieve objectives. "These humans fight like madmen," she told her subordinates. But as the battle continued, Valesta began to see a pattern in the human madness. They weren't randomly throwing their lives away. Every sacrifice had a purpose. Every seemingly crazy tactic achieved a specific goal. Meanwhile, High Commander Veltar was facing a problem he had never encountered before. His forces were taking heavy casualties, and the human resistance was actually getting stronger as the battle continued. "Sir," his aide reported, "we've lost 12 ships and over 300 ground troops. The humans show no signs of surrender. How long until they run out of weapons and ammunition?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be manufacturing new weapons using our own technology. Some of our damaged ships have been stripped of useful components." Veltar couldn't believe what he was hearing. "They're scavenging our technology during a battle?" "Yes, sir. Human engineering teams are modifying our weapons to work with their systems. They're also studying our tactical patterns and developing countermeasures." By the end of the first day, something impossible had happened. The Zephyrian Empire, which had never lost a battle in 3,000 years, was being fought to a standstill by a species that should have been helpless. Veltar stood alone in his command chamber, staring at the tactical displays. Red markers showed damaged Zephyrian ships. Yellow markers showed areas where his ground forces were pinned down by human resistance. For the first time in his military career, Veltar was considering the possibility of retreat. But that was impossible. The Zephyrian Empire did not retreat. It did not accept stalemates. It conquered or it was destroyed. "Send a message to the High Council," he ordered. "Request immediate reinforcements. The human situation is more complex than anticipated." His aide looked confused. "Sir, should I mention that we're facing unexpected resistance?" Veltar thought for a moment. In 3,000 years of conquest, no Zephyrian commander had ever used those words before. "Yes," he said finally. "Tell them that humanity is unlike any species we have encountered. Tell them that these humans may be the most dangerous enemy the Empire has ever faced." 6 months had passed since the aliens first appeared, and Earth had become a battleground unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the rebuilt control room of New Olympus, watching displays that showed the current state of the war. The numbers looked impossible. Humanity was still fighting, still holding their ground, and somehow still learning how to fight better every day. "Captain," Engineer Kate Williams called from her workstation, "I've got the new hybrid weapons online. These babies use alien power cores with human targeting systems." Jake walked over to examine her work. The weapons looked like nothing either species had built before. They combined the raw power of Zephyrian technology with human creativity and adaptability. How do they work? Well, the aliens build everything to be efficient and predictable. But humans like to tinker, so I took their energy systems and connected them to our computers. Now we can do things with their technology that they never imagined. Dr. Alan Brooks entered the control room carrying a data pad filled with her latest research. She had been studying captured alien equipment and prisoners for months. "Jake, I need to show you something important," she said. "I've been talking to the alien prisoners, and I think I understand why they're having so much trouble with us." She activated a holographic display showing the structure of Zephyrian society. "Look at this. Their entire civilization is based on rigid hierarchy. Every alien knows exactly what their job is, who they report to, and what they're supposed to do in any situation. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also makes them predictable. And humans aren't predictable? Exactly. We have hundreds of different governments, thousands of military units that can operate independently, and millions of individuals who can make their own decisions. When we lose a commander, someone else takes over. When we lose a base, we set up a new one somewhere else. They can't cut off our head because we don't have just one head." Meanwhile, on Mars, General Pete Davis was overseeing the construction of humanity's first interstellar warships. The ships were being built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology that the humans had captured or salvaged. "How long until the first ships are ready?" asked Colonel Sam Turner, who had arrived from Earth to inspect the new fleet. "2 more weeks for the first squadron," Pete replied. "They're not as big as the alien ships, but they're faster and more maneuverable. Plus, we've incorporated some surprises that the aliens won't expect." Sam nodded approvingly. "What kind of surprises?" "Well, human ships can separate into smaller units if needed. Alien ships can't do that. Human ships can also link together to form larger configurations. Again, something aliens never thought of. But the biggest surprise is the crew." "What do you mean?" "Human crews can improvise. When something breaks, they fix it with whatever they have available. When the situation changes, they adapt their tactics on the spot. Alien crews follow programmed responses. They're very good at what they're designed to do, but they can't handle unexpected situations." Back in space, the Zephyrian War Master Kelthane had arrived with the Imperial War Fleet. This was the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled, and it had never been defeated. High Commander Veltar met with Kelthane aboard the massive command ship. "Report on the human situation," Kelthane ordered. Veltar looked uncomfortable. "War Master, these humans are unlike any species we have previously encountered. Our standard tactics have proven ineffective, elaborate. They do not follow logical military doctrine. Their forces operate independently without central coordination. When we destroy their command centers, new leaders emerge immediately. When we defeat their main forces, smaller units continue to resist. They appear to be incapable of recognizing when they have been defeated." Kelthane studied the tactical displays. "Show me their defensive positions." "That's part of the problem, War Master. They don't have fixed defensive positions. Their forces are constantly moving, attacking, and regrouping. Yesterday we destroyed a human base on their moon. Today, humans attacked 3 of our supply ships using technology salvaged from that same base. Impossible. How could they rebuild so quickly?" "They don't rebuild, War Master. They adapt. Every time we destroy something, they learn from it and build something better." Kelthane was beginning to understand why Veltar had requested reinforcements. This was indeed a new type of warfare. On Earth, the human resistance had evolved into something that amazed even their own leaders. Mayor Tony Richards was coordinating with resistance cells in dozens of cities around the world. "The aliens control the major highways and airports," he reported to Admiral Lisa Carter, "but they can't control everything. Humans are moving through forests, sewers, abandoned buildings, and places the aliens don't even know exist." Admiral Carter nodded. "What about casualties?" "Heavy, but not as bad as we expected. The aliens seem reluctant to cause massive destruction. I think they still want to use our planet and our people." "That's their weakness," Carter realized. "They need us alive, but we don't need them alive." Dr. Brooks had made another important discovery. While studying captured alien prisoners, she found that many of them were becoming fascinated by human culture. "Captain Morrison," she reported, "some of the alien prisoners are asking questions about human society. They can't understand how we can function without a rigid hierarchy. Is that useful to us?" "It might be. I think some of them are starting to question their own system. A few have even asked if they could stay on Earth after the war ends. This was revolutionary. In 3,000 years of conquest, no alien species had ever asked to join human society instead of the other way around. The breakthrough came when Captain Morrison led the first human attack outside the solar system. Using the new hybrid ships, a small human fleet struck a Zephyrian supply depot near Alpha Centauri. The attack succeeded beyond all expectations. The aliens were completely unprepared for human ships operating in their territory. The humans destroyed the depot, captured several supply ships, and rescued dozens of alien slaves from other conquered worlds. But the most important result was the message it sent to the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, the Zephyrian Empire had been attacked on their own territory. War Master Kelthane received the report with growing alarm. How many human ships were involved in this attack? 12, War Master. 12 ships defeated a fully defended supply depot? Yes, War Master. They used tactics we have never encountered. Instead of attacking in formation, they attacked from 6 different directions simultaneously. Instead of targeting our main defenses, they hit our supply lines and support systems. By the time our main weapons came online, they had already achieved their objectives and begun retreating. Kelthane realized that the human problem was spreading beyond Earth. If humans could attack Zephyrian territory successfully, other conquered species might begin to think that rebellion was possible. Increase security at all military installations, he ordered, and prepare a special assault force. We need to end this human resistance before it inspires others to rebel. But it was already too late. On worlds throughout the Zephyrian Empire, conquered species were hearing stories about the humans who refused to surrender. Some were beginning to ask questions they had never dared ask before. What if the Zephyrian Empire could be defeated? What if freedom was possible after all? 2 years after the first alien ships appeared over Earth, the galaxy was changing in ways no one could have predicted. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center of Terran Station 1, humanity's first star fortress, built around a captured Zephyrian shipyard. Status report, she called out to her staff. Ma'am, we have confirmation that uprisings have begun on 17 worlds, reported Commander Rick Stone. The Liberation fleet reports successful contact with resistance movements. On 12 more planets, Carter smiled grimly. The war had evolved far beyond a simple fight for Earth's survival. Humanity had become the spark that lit a galaxy-wide rebellion against the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the flagship Endeavour as it approached the Kepler 442 system. His fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human ships flew alongside vessels crewed by former Zephyrian slaves and rebels from a dozen different species. Captain, said Commander Valesta, the former Zephyrian officer who had defected to the human cause, long-range sensors detect the 7th Armada in defensive positions around the 4th planet. How many ships? 87 capital ships, approximately 300 support vessels. Jake's fleet had only 32 ships, but he had learned that numbers weren't everything in warfare. What's our intelligence on their commander? Admiral Zektar, a traditional military leader. He will expect us to attack in standard formation against his strongest positions. Then we'll give him something he doesn't expect. All ships prepare for pattern chaos. Pattern chaos was a human invention that drove Zephyrian commanders to distraction. Instead of attacking in organized formations, human ships would scatter and attack from random directions, making it impossible for the enemy to predict their movements or concentrate their defenses. On the planet below, Colonel Sam Turner was working with local resistance fighters. The native species, called the Kalari, had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for over 2 centuries. Your plan is madness, said Kalari leader Thessara. A direct assault on the planetary command center has never succeeded. That's because you've been thinking like the Zephyrians expect you to think, Sam replied. They've positioned their defenses to stop a conventional attack. But humans don't do conventional. Sam's plan involved simultaneous strikes on 17 different targets scattered across the planet. The Zephyrians would have to split their forces to defend everything, making each position vulnerable. Dr. Alan Brooks was aboard the diplomatic ship New Harmony, making contact with potential allies throughout the galaxy. Her job was to convince other species that the Zephyrian Empire could be defeated. The key is showing them that resistance is possible, she explained to her team. For thousands of years, these species have been told that the Zephyrians are invincible. We need to prove that's a lie. Her ship carried recordings of human victories, testimonials from freed slaves, and most importantly, proof that the Empire was losing control of multiple star systems. Back at Terran Station 1, engineer Kate Williams was working on humanity's most ambitious project yet. She was building a new type of weapon system that could learn and adapt in real time. The idea came from studying how humans fight, she explained to General Pete Davis. We don't just follow pre-programmed tactics. We watch what the enemy does and adapt our strategy accordingly, so I'm building weapons that can do the same thing. How does it work? The system observes enemy tactics, identifies patterns, and automatically develops countermeasures. It's like giving our ships a human brain for tactical thinking. War Master Kelthane was facing the worst crisis in the Empire's history. Reports of rebellion were coming in from across the galaxy, and his forces were stretched too thin to respond to all of them. How many systems are currently in revolt? He asked his aide. 43 confirmed, War Master. Another 27 showing signs of unrest. And our losses? We have lost over 200 ships and control of 8 major industrial worlds. The humans appear to be coordinating resistance movements across multiple sectors simultaneously. Kelthane studied the galactic map. Red markers showed systems in open rebellion. Yellow markers showed areas of unrest. The Empire's territory was shrinking for the first time in its history. The High Council is demanding an immediate solution, his aide continued. They are considering the use of planet-killer weapons. Kelthane felt a chill. Planet killers had never been used against inhabited worlds. They were weapons of last resort, designed to destroy entire planets when all other options had failed. That would be a mistake, he said. If we start destroying planets, we'll prove to the galaxy that we're tyrants, not liberators. It will only strengthen the rebellion. But the High Council was desperate. The Empire's economy was collapsing as more worlds rebelled. Trade routes were being disrupted by human raiders and their allies. Entire sectors were declaring independence. The turning point came during the Battle of Kepler 442. Captain Morrison's fleet faced the Zephyrian 7th Armada in the largest space battle since the war began. All ships, execute pattern chaos, Morrison ordered. The human fleet scattered like seeds in the wind. Ships attacked from above, below, and from all sides simultaneously. The Zephyrian ships, designed to fight in organized formations, couldn't adapt to the chaotic human tactics. Their command ship is trying to coordinate a response, reported Velesta. They're sending orders to individual ships, but the human attack pattern is changing faster than they can react. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian 7th Armada had been completely destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost. The victory was broadcast across the galaxy. On worlds throughout the Empire, conquered species watched in amazement as the mighty Zephyrian fleet was defeated by a force less than half its size. On the capital world of the Empire, High Commander Veltar met with the High Council for an emergency session. The situation is beyond critical, he reported. Human tactics have spread to resistance movements throughout the Empire. Our military doctrine, which has served us for 3,000 years, appears to be obsolete. Then we change tactics, said Council Leader Morthek. Deploy the planet killer device. Destroy Earth and end this rebellion. That will only make things worse, Veltar argued. The humans have become a symbol of hope for enslaved species everywhere. If we destroy Earth, we'll create martyrs. The rebellion will grow stronger, not weaker. Then what do you suggest? Veltar hesitated. What he was about to say would be considered treason by traditional Zephyrian standards. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that the humans are right. Perhaps our empire has become corrupt and needs to change. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in the empire's history, a high-ranking military officer had questioned the fundamental nature of Zephyrian civilization. Meanwhile, Dr. Brooks was preparing for her most important mission yet. She was going to broadcast a message directly to the Zephyrian people, bypassing their government's censorship. Citizens of the Zephyrian Empire, she would say, you have been told that your empire brings order to the galaxy. But what kind of order requires the enslavement of entire species? What kind of civilization denies basic freedom to billions of people? Her message would offer an alternative. A galactic federation where different species could cooperate as equals, sharing their unique strengths while maintaining their independence. As the empire continued to crumble, it became clear that the war was no longer about human survival, It had become a fight for the soul of the galaxy itself. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive the Zephyrian Empire. The question was whether the Empire could survive the rise of human ideals. The final battle for the galaxy's future began not with weapons, but with words. Dr. Alan Brooks stood before a massive transmission array on Terran Station 1, preparing to broadcast a message that would reach every world in the Zephyrian Empire. "Citizens of all species," she began, "you have lived under Zephyrian rule for thousands of years. You have been told that this is the natural order, that some species are meant to rule while others serve. But I am here to tell you that this is a lie." Her message was being transmitted simultaneously to hundreds of worlds, cutting through the Empire's communication networks using captured alien technology, improved by human engineering. 3 years ago, the Zephyrians came to Earth expecting easy conquest. They found instead a species that refused to kneel. Today, the galaxy is learning that freedom is not a human concept. It is a universal right that belongs to all thinking beings. Meanwhile, space around Earth was filling with the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. War Master Kelthane had arrived with the Empire's ultimate weapon, a massive device capable of destroying entire planets. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the approaching fleet from the command center of Terran Station 1. "How many ships?" "Over 500 capital ships, ma'am," reported Commander Rick Stone, "including the planet killer device. If they use that weapon, Earth will be completely destroyed." "Then we make sure they don't get the chance to use it," Carter replied. "Signal all human fleets. Execute Operation Liberation." Across the galaxy, human ships and their allies launched simultaneous attacks on Zephyrian installations. Captain Jake Morrison led the attack on the planet killer device itself, while Colonel Sam Turner coordinated ground assaults on 12 different worlds. "Remember," Carter broadcast to all human forces, "we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom." The planet killer device was a massive ship the size of a small moon. It had never been used against an inhabited world, but the Zephyrian High Council had decided that humanity's continued existence was too dangerous to the Empire's stability. Captain Morrison approached. The giant ship, with a small fleet of the fastest vessels humanity could build. His mission was simple but nearly impossible: disable the weapon before it could fire on Earth. "Captain," said Commander Valesta, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in their main weapon. They're preparing to fire. How long do we have?" 30 minutes, maybe less." Morrison's ships raced toward the planet killer, dodging fire from hundreds of escort vessels. The Zephyrian defenders fought desperately to protect their ultimate weapon, but human tactics had evolved far beyond anything they could predict. "All ships, execute Swarm Pattern 7, Morrison ordered. The human ships split into dozens of tiny groups, each attacking different parts of the massive vessel simultaneously. The Zephyrian gunners couldn't target them all, and the ship's own size worked against it. Engineer Kate Williams was leading a boarding party inside the planet killer device. Her team had to reach the weapons control center and disable it from within. "This place is like a city," she reported as they moved through corridors filled with alien technology. "There must be thousands of crew members aboard." "Stay focused on the mission," Morrison replied from his ship. "You're our only chance to stop this thing." Kate's team fought their way through the ship's defenses, but they encountered something unexpected. Many of the Zephyrian crew members were not fighting. Some were actively helping the humans find their way to the control center. "Why are you helping us?" Kate asked one of the alien crew members. "Because we have heard Dr. Brooks's message," the alien replied. "We no longer wish to be part of an empire that destroys worlds." The planet killer weapon had become a symbol of everything wrong with the Zephyrian Empire. Even its own crew was beginning to question their orders. On the surface of the planet Kalara 5, Colonel Turner was working with local resistance fighters to capture a major Zephyrian command center. The battle was fierce, but the alien defenders were demoralized. "They're not fighting with their usual coordination," observed Thesara, the Kalari resistance leader. "Something has changed." Turner knew what had changed. Word of Dr. Brooks' message and the human victories was spreading faster than the Empire could suppress it. Zephyrian soldiers were beginning to wonder if they were fighting for the right cause. Back on the planet killer device, Kate Williams reached the control center just as the weapon began its final charging sequence. The massive chamber was filled with energy that made the air itself buzz with power. There. She pointed to a central console surrounded by protective barriers. That's the main control system. But I can't reach it from here. One of the Zephyrian crew members who had been helping them stepped forward. I can reach it. But shutting down the weapon will probably kill me. You don't have to do this, Kate said. The alien looked at her with eyes that seemed ancient and tired. My people have been serving this empire for 1,000 years. It is time for us to choose freedom, even if the price is our lives. The alien crew member walked into the energy field surrounding the control console. The power that could destroy a planet coursed through his body as he reached for the shutdown controls. For freedom, he whispered, and activated the emergency shutdown. The planet killer weapon powered down just minutes before it would have fired on Earth. But the explosion from the overloaded control systems shook the entire massive ship. All across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Empire's ultimate weapon had been stopped not by human force, but by the courage of a Zephyrian who chose freedom over obedience. War Master Kelthane received the news aboard his flagship. His ultimate weapon was disabled. His fleet was under attack from multiple directions, and worst of all, his own officers were beginning to question their orders. War Master, his aide reported, we're receiving surrender messages from 17 ships in our fleet. They're refusing to continue fighting. Impossible. Zephyrian officers do not surrender. They're not surrendering to the humans, sir. They're surrendering to the idea of freedom. They want to join the rebellion. For the first time in his long military career, Kelthane realized that his empire was facing something it could not defeat with weapons. The humans had not just resisted conquest. They had introduced ideas that were spreading through Zephyrian society like a virus. On the Zephyrian capital world, the High Council was in emergency session. Reports of rebellion, defection, and surrender were coming in from every corner of the empire. The situation is beyond recovery, reported High Commander Veltar. Our own people are turning against us. The empire is collapsing from within. Council leader Morthek looked older than his centuries of age. How did we fail so completely? We had the most powerful military in the galaxy. We failed because we forgot that power without legitimacy cannot last forever, Veltar replied. The humans reminded the galaxy that freedom is more powerful than force. The final blow to the Empire came not from a battle, but from a choice. War Master Kelthane, the Empire's greatest military leader, sent a message to all Zephyrian forces. I am ordering all Zephyrian military units to cease hostile operations immediately. The war is over. The Empire is dissolved. Any who wish to join the new Galactic Federation are welcome. Any who wish to return home may do so with honor. Dr. Brooks received Kelthane's message aboard her diplomatic ship. She smiled as she prepared humanity's response. To all species of the galaxy, the age of empire is over. The age of cooperation begins now. Earth invites all free peoples to join the Terran Federation, a voluntary alliance where every species contributes their unique strengths while maintaining their independence. 5 years later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizons, leading a mission to contact species beyond the former Zephyrian Empire. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Terran Federation now included over 200 species, all working together as equals. Former Zephyrian worlds had become thriving democracies. The Empire's rigid hierarchy had been replaced by flexible cooperation. Admiral, reported his communications officer, we're receiving a signal from an unknown species in the next system. They're asking if we're the humans who defeated the Zephyrian Empire. Morrison smiled. Tell them we're the humans who helped everyone defeat tyranny, and ask them if they'd like to join a federation of free worlds. Dr. Brooks, now serving as the Federation's first Secretary General, often reflected on how the war had changed everything. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. Instead, they had taught the galaxy to conquer itself. The greatest victory was not the destruction of the Zephyrian Empire, but the birth of a new idea, that the strength of civilization comes not from the power to dominate, but from the courage to liberate and the wisdom to cooperate. Earth had become the birthplace of galactic freedom, and humanity had earned something more valuable than conquest, the respect and friendship of an entire galaxy. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun.